Okay, we are recording. You and how are you today?
I'm good, thanks. Yeah, bit hot, but good.
It it is. I mean, we are in the middle of a heat wave at the moment. Where are you? Is that home?
In London, yeah, yeah, uh, pretty hot.
Well, look, we're gonna talk about. I'm imagining other places that you've lived over the years as we sort of work our way through your creative journey, essentially musically today. Um, and I'd rather sort of kick things off the way that we always do, which is to ask you to start your playlist by telling me the song that you regard as having the greatest ever intro, please.
It's a tough one because there's so many, and you could go for the epic sort of "Shine On You Crazy Diamonds" Pink Floyd vibe, but I've gone for "Airbag" Radiohead because it kicks off OK Computer, and I think that for me, like, it's just a lot of nostalgia and just here. I just remember every time I hear it. I hear that like intro coming in and it sort of reminds me of the first time I heard the album and being
Yeah,
like, what is this? Um yeah, and there's also Easy Star All Star have done a really great cover
yeah,
of the whole album, Radio Dread, and that's awesome as well. But yeah, I think Airbag,
yeah,
a lot of Radiohead related ones probably.
yeah. That's a great shout, Radio Dread. I forgot all about that. That was because
Oh, it's so good.
they done a Pink Floyd one as well, didn't they?
Yeah, yeah. What is it?
They done Dark Side, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. Yeah, and that's awesome as well. But I think
Mm,
the Radio Dread one's amazing. It's just every song class.
absolutely. Well, look, in regards to intros, I want to ask you about this. Because I want to know about your creative process musically and the music that you've spoken about so far. You know, you mentioned Pink Floyd and Radiohead. These are bands that make quite expansive music with, you know, Shine On, for instance, having this huge intro. And we live in a world now where it appears generations coming through, their attention spans are getting shorter and shorter, and TikTok is being used as a marketing platform for music, and it all seems to be very bite-sized. Um, right or wrong, you know, I'm not saying, you know, either way, but of them kind of trends in how people are listening to music now, and also things like Spotify, where you are immersed in so much other music, constantly with things down the side of the going, you might like this, you might like this.
Mhm.
Has any of that at all sort of filtered through into your creative process?
Um, I don't know if consciously it has, but I suppose it must have really in some way. I think gone are the days where you have a big, massive guitar solo in
Yeah,
your tune. Like it's every song is very compact. Even mid lates are disappearing
yeah,
sometimes. You know what I mean? Like it's sort of the what the Americans call a bridge. But yeah, I think so. I think you've got to kind of get into the song quite quick now. Although I don't necessarily always do that. I
yeah.
think I think it's nice to have a bit of an intro sometimes. You can take your time with it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's weird. I think that had Radiohead maybe not released the Bends, and I think if they would have launched their career with OK Computer, I think record labels would be like, no, this isn't really. There's no singles on here, and which is crazy in
Yeah,
retrospect, you know, knowing that the importance of that record. But I think where it is so expansive, I think you know, for new artists now as well, I think it is that don't bore us, get us to the chorus kind of, you know, and I don't agree
yeah,
with that, but it is so important now that I think that to get heard on Spotify, you know, you've got to grab them quickly. So many artists now are
yeah,
starting songs with a chorus. Do you know what I mean?
yeah, definitely. I mean, the Beatles often start with the chorus, and it's not like a new, but I think
And
it,
Motown.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, very much so, yeah. But I think you're definitely right. You're finding that trend more. I guess for me, writing, um, I'm not necessarily writing to sort of get number one hits or and I'm not making music for that reason to sort of be a massive international rock star.
Yeah.
Um, so it's now I guess I don't have that pressure when it's writing because music isn't my sort of primary sort of source of income and career. It's just something lovely that I really enjoy doing, and I'm really lucky to have it. So I guess it's I've slightly different. I've got I guess I'm quite lucky in the approach that I don't have anybody going, oh, where's the single here, or that song's too long,
Yeah.
or you know what I mean. Although I think song length there's a lot to say. I think I do like a short song,
Yeah,
um, on an album, but then and you whack a couple of 7 minutes in if you can get away with it.
absolutely. I'm going to ask you for your second track now, please, mate. I'm going to ask you to tell me the first song you remember hearing that had an emotional impact on you, please.
Yeah, funny enough, I'm gonna go with Radiohead again, but same album, Exit Music for Film. Because I mean, I think that album is just unreal. And at the time I listened to it, I must have been very young, not even 10, maybe if that. So I think it was the first time I heard music that wasn't sort of perhaps what my parents would listen to, or like more the sort of Oasis Blur kind of vibe, which is great. But Radiohead really just sort of did something to me, and I got the songbook for OK Computer, and I just remember loving sitting and learning exit
Yeah.
music for film. Um, so yeah, I think that one. I mean, it's just that the way it builds up and then sort of explodes at the end. I just think it's a phenomenal bit of music.
I when I got that CD home, I'm quite older than yourself, and I remember sort of getting it home, and I'd already sort of seen Radiohead a few times previously, and it was like, right, they've got this new record. And I remember putting it on, and it's that track, and it's
Yeah,
the bit where I think they're like a kettle drum that dum, 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 before it
yeah, yeah,
just goes, and when it went, and his vocal just goes with it. I literally remember
yeah,
laying on my bed and going, fuck. And like, I
yeah,
literally, my old man was like, wait, I was like, sorry. And it was like, it took
yeah.
my breath away. It was like,
Yeah,
it's such that's the standout track on that record for me. And like, I'm so glad you chose that.
yeah, it's a beauty. Yeah, it's just, yeah. I'm exactly the same as you, was lying on the floor, like just listening to it in my room, going, "Whoa, what's this? What is this? I didn't know this music could be like this."
If you had to sort of pinpoint what that emotion was, what do you think it was?
I don't know. I think a lot of people and my friends at the time, or like in my teenagers, not a lot of my mates would be into Radiohead, and they'd have that sort of, oh, it's depressing. But I don't think it is. I get this like just real kind of, I don't know. It's not joy, but it's just like, because it's beautiful. And you just get immersed in it. So I just, it's kind of like a real mix of like heightened emotion.
Yeah,
You can't quite pinpoint. Um, I guess that art can make you feel like that. It can just bring out, sort of maybe expose the top layer, like to take off a few layers of like protection that you carry
yeah,
around with you
yeah,
to stop yourself from getting harmed by everything that's going on in the world. And then it gives you that little insight for a moment. You get to release it for a bit. I think it's hard to pinpoint exactly what emotion it is. Like, it's kind of joy, but it's
yeah,
sad as well. It's sort of like melancholic joy. I don't know.
yeah.
I don't know. There's probably a word for it.
So I'm always intrigued to know with guests if they, if you wake up feeling a bit low, you wake up having a bit of a blue day. Are you the sort of person that goes and finds the best of S Club 7 and it's like, right, I've got to get some joy in, I've got to get up? Or are you leaning straight into Radiohead, Leonard Cohen, Nick
Oh
Cave?
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Wallow, man, get it all out. Yeah, definitely. I definitely go in that route. I find if like silly, happy music just does my head in. I just want
Yeah,
to, yeah, I want to feel something. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. You mentioned sort of laying on your bedroom floor listening to OK Computer. So where was that bedroom floor? And tell us a little bit about home growing up. Was it a musical environment?
Yeah. No, I would say it wasn't like massively musical. But my parents were very encouraging for us to play music. Like, started off with piano, and I didn't really want to do that. And then I got some classical guitar lessons when I was about 11, I think. And then, and I didn't really want to do that either. But then I'd learned enough to sort of be able to pick up songbooks, so like the Beatles and Oasis, and then OK Computer was the big one,
Yeah,
and I got that. Yeah, so it was in Cardiff in South Wales. So
yeah,
yeah, I think that my mum's completely tone deaf, like, and actually she is. It's like it's quite incredible. But I think my dad's secretly a musician. He just never really did anything with it.
yeah,
But my brother plays music as well. He's really good. So there would have been a time where my mum would be coming upstairs to do whatever, and he'd be in his room singing Radiohead, and I'd be in my room singing Radiohead. So it must have been a bit. well, you'd imagine you need to be a Radiohead fan to live in that
Yeah,
house.
yeah. Did your dad have like a record collection that you and your brother would sort of devour, or
Yeah, 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 a little bit, yeah, but not like he's not like massively into music.
mm,
He likes music, but yeah, they wouldn't. But yeah, you'd have like David Bowie and
yeah,
Queen, um, and stuff like that. But yeah, I think it was later that I kind of started exploring. And also having an older brother is good because they're kind of getting into things before you,
yeah,
and it sort of filters down, so you kind of get it before everyone else.
yeah?
Um, so yeah, that's pretty much how I got all my music.
I'm going to ask you now for your third track, Ewan. I'm going to ask you please to tell me the song that reminds you of your time at school, please.
Yeah, it's a funny one because there's loads. I went for Fire in My Heart, Super Furry Animals.
That'll
I don't
break
know
you in
why,
half.
because
That record. That's a beautiful song. That is.
yeah, because I think it's weird. Like it immediately reminds me of my friend Emir, and I used to sing it. Um, so yeah, it just took me like as soon as I read the question, that was the first thing that came to my head. Um, yeah, obviously growing up in Wales, Super Furries is quite a prominent, um, if not the most obvious, but yeah, with it, yeah, I was a big fan. Whilst I am, yeah.
So was school, it was those early gigs going down to, I'm going to try and pronounce this correctly, Club Iverback?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't have been allowed to go in when I was that young. But yeah, it was a place called CIA in Cardiff. I remember seeing an amazing Super Furries gig there. So yeah, it would have been that going to that was a good thing, growing up in Cardiff because most people did come and play there, so you could go and see these bands.
Mm,
Um, and you still got to grow up in a city, but then you also get this feeling of you're quite close to nature and stuff. It's not too big, but it's big enough. Like,
yeah, absolutely. There was a band from, and I think they're from Cardiff. I hope I get that right. And the few times that I played Club Iverback, the last time we played it, we were supporting a band called Terrace.
all
and
right, yeah,
and no one seemed to remember them. And they got cover stars on the NME, and it was all this hype around them, and then they just disappeared. And
yeah,
and they were one of the most exciting bands I'd ever sort of seen live, and there was so much attention on them. And even when I've had multiple Welsh artists on here, I mention them, they're like, no, I don't remember
yeah,
them. Uh,
yeah. I don't know. Good name
yeah,
though.
yes, great name.
Great name.
Well, look, going back to school was school something you enjoyed?
Not really. No, it was. I still have dreams where I'm like, I think I'm in school. Do you ever get them? Where and you wake up, and you're like, oh, thanks, fuck for that. But yeah, it was fine. It was all right. It wasn't terrible, but yeah, I think I got to a certain age where I was like, this is not for me
Yeah.
anymore. I'm kind of like, what am I going to do? Am I going to be a marine biologist or something, or what? Like
What did you want to be?
psychologist?
Did you know what you wanted to
Well,
be at school?
yeah, well, yeah. I wanted to be a rock star.
How did that go down with the
Yeah.
careers officer? You
Oh, it went down exceedingly well, as you can imagine. They were like, "Oh, absolutely! I'll just phone." Yeah, and which university do you go to for that? No, yeah. Well, it was kind of, but then when I sort of had to dumb it down to an actor then, which was a bit more. They could sort of understand that a bit more, and there was moves that they could make. They could phone RADA and be like, "Oh, how do you get into RADA?" you know. Um, but yeah, it was. Yeah, I mean, but I quite like sort of animals and nature and stuff. So it was like, oh, maybe I'll be a marine biologist, not really knowing what that was.
Yeah.
And psychology, I was quite into. But yeah, I think it got to a point where like, I think I think I'm going to go down this. Acting in order, and then but with music as well, and see which one happens. Like,
Was that creativity kind of encouraged at your school?
yeah, very much so. Yeah, yeah. I think that was the good. I think Welsh language education is you kind of there's the Eisteddfod tradition where you compete in singing and oratory and all sorts of different things, and it's very much a part of the culture. So I think you get that experience of performance very young. And that's why I think there's so many really great artists that come out of Wales, especially in that sort of um, community. So I think yeah, it was encouraged definitely. Yeah, we had we were allowed to like I had a little band, and we did gigs at lunchtime in the school hall kind of thing. Um, they were pretty cool about it. Yeah,
And would this
amazingly.
have been sort of, at the turn of the millennium, late 90s?
Yeah,
I mean, this is
yeah.
a
So
meteoric explosion of Welsh bands into, mega stardom at this point as well, wasn't there? Was that
yeah,
encouraging
yeah,
to
yeah,
see?
yeah. Of course, yeah, yeah. And it's so these are all people that I can relate to, and yeah, it definitely was. Yeah, there was a huge amount of really good Welsh bands at
Yeah.
the time. Yeah, so it was cool, man. Yeah, it was a good time to grow up, I think.
Do you think it's important to have them kind of sort of people that come from, your hometown that you can go, oh, they've done it, so I can do it.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's nothing more encouraging than seeing somebody else be and like, oh, right, okay, cool. It just makes it possible.
Yeah.
Um, that's why I think it's just like the lack of funding in the arts and stuff at the moment is a really dangerous thing because you're stilting a generation, and then the next generation then is going to be stuck behind, and you really need to like encourage this stuff because it might only be one or two out of a group of 50 that can actually do it, but those people are then encouraging the next generation to just at least try and express, and I think it's really important to be able to express yourself, and music is definitely an amazing way of doing
Yeah.
it rather than just sitting around on your phones or like stealing people's mobiles or whatever.
Yeah. I'm going to ask you now to tell me, please, the first song you remember buying from a record shop.
um I think the one that I can remember properly I bought it was when Blur won the Brits, and I bought Park Life from Asda
Yeah.
in my local Asda um, on tape.
Yeah.
I don't know where that tape's gone. It must be in my parents' house somewhere. But yeah, so I remember because that was kind of all happening in the Oasis Blur thing. So it was sort of just before Radiohead, and well, obviously Radiohead were around, but I
Mm.
hadn't tapped into it yet, or rather, I should say, my brother hadn't tapped into it, therefore, to allow me in. But yeah, that was the one I bought, like a prop. I remember being like, "Yeah, cool, I'm buying this."
Yeah.
Yeah,
And did,
it was
for somebody that was, you said you had you was playing guitar and stuff like that and getting into to bands and stuff. Like, aside from what I said about the sort of the Welsh talent that was exploding everywhere, like guitar music was pop music then. It was the biggest thing that was
mm,
going on in the charts, like Liam, like Brand, some Jarvis, Damon. They were legit pop stars. They weren't like your underground indie heroes like they might have been a few years before. The biggest music in the UK was indie guitar pop. And like, did that feel
yeah.
exciting as a young lad?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, yeah. Because there was just so much of it as well, and there were also and all the individuality between, you had like Supergrass and people like that doing a completely different thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was so exciting. That was the idea. Now it would be like, oh, I want to be a DJ,
Yeah.
whereas, or something, or a rapper. Whereas I think in that period, it was certainly like, yeah, I want to be in a band,
Yeah.
and it was yeah, that was the thing. Um, yeah, I know it was quite a lot of different, and it wasn't all just sort of like indie. You had all like heavier stuff as well, which I wasn't massively into. But then, yeah, I think music was a lot. It was a lot easier to sort of categorize then. I think obviously like genres have sort of melted into each other, and everything's gone a bit more. It's more difficult to put your finger on what things are now, I think. Or
I,
maybe that's
I,
just me getting old.
no, 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 no. Like,
If I just sounded like an old bastard
no,
there.
not at all, not at all. Because I'm a 52-year-old man, but I run an alternative venue and have done for 30 odd years. And you're right, music is not as tribal as it was. Like, you
Yeah,
could look at someone and go, he's an indie kid, or he likes new metal, or he likes
yeah,
drum
yeah,
and bass, and it's all merged, probably due to sort of streaming services and that. And I think things do
yeah,
become slightly more kind of lots of crossover. And don't get me wrong, if it opens up people to other sorts of music, do you know what I mean? But I do think,
Mm.
to agree with what you said, at that point there was obviously there was lots of stuff that was, the new metal stuff was happening towards the end of the 90s, and then
Mm.
also things like, what was happening with like the Prodigy and Underworld and Chemical Brothers, like, that scene
Yeah.
was just Fatboy Slim was huge, like,
Yeah.
and it
Yeah.
and it felt like a really exciting time for British music.
It was, yeah. And then you had all that the sort of Bristolian side of
Oh,
Massive Attack and all that kind of stuff. And it
Portishead,
was
yeah,
just what it said, yeah. And yeah, so you just yeah, it was cool. Like it was
yeah,
pretty cool. I mean, I think we had it really good. I think, obviously streaming's just changed everything and the
yeah,
access to music now is completely different. Whereas, you had a CD and your only chance of seeing them live, if not on like, MTV or whatever, and not all the bands are on that,
yeah,
you had to go and see them,
yeah.
which is kind of cool. There's no YouTube or whatever, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, with
Good
streaming
old days,
services,
eh?
yeah, this can't fall into that category, mate. Um, but one of the things that I do want to kind of be all granddad about is the fact that the one thing I do think is lost from that period is the importance of seeing album artwork, because I imagine when you put your music together, a lot of time and effort and thought and love goes into creating the artwork for it.
Mhm.
Whereas, I mean, we are seeing a resurgence of vinyl, but for me, when you see those books, which is like the 100 greatest album covers of all time and things like
Mhm.
that, none of them albums have been out in the last 20 years, because
Yeah,
it was so iconic to pick that up and look at it and devour it. Or if it's a CD, pull it out, read the notes. I might have just been
yeah,
a nerd like me, but I would want to see everything and know everything.
yeah,
Do you know
yeah,
what I mean?
yeah,
And I think that is lost a bit now when you open it on Spotify, or on your phone on Apple Music or whatever. Do you know what I'm saying?
yeah, absolutely, yeah. And I think that's even in the like 10 years. Like the when I did my first album, I I like hand wrote all the lyrics down to have in the sleeve like of the CD,
Yeah.
and we made a certain amount of CDs. But obviously, even then, it was getting very much towards digital. But yeah, whereas now, no one's asked me to do anything like that for this album. It's just like, we got a front cover. Good, that'll do. A couple of pictures here and there that are tiny on Spotify, and
Yeah.
it's like, well, I used to stick anything on there. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like, but yeah, it's just everything's changed. It's mad, and it's interesting having like the 10-year gap between albums, and how it's like even it makes me feel old. Basically, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Imagine what it's going to be like buying my third album when I'm 50. It's going to be mad.
um, Record shops, are they still something that, if you're, I mean, you say you're in London now, if you walk past Rough Trade, you going in?
Um, Probably not. Usually, if I've got nothing to do. Although, yeah, I don't know. I was in New Orleans a few years ago, and I was doing a bit of that there. But I think, yeah, I haven't. I have to admit, I've not done that for a while.
Yeah.
Should do that. But yeah, it's just, I guess everything's just like, oh, what's that song? Poof, on your
It's
phone, and I
so
fall
easy, isn't
into it
it?
myself. And
Yeah, we
it's
all do,
like,
mate.
yeah, yeah, it's so yeah, to actually think about buying a record now, it's a bit. It just feels like I don't know. I would like to, yeah. I think I'm going to make a point of it.
All right.
Next time
Okay.
we'll walk past Rough Trade. Next time you speak to me, I'll say, yeah, oh, every time.
All right. Well, let's talk clubbing. For track five, I'm going to ask you, please, to tell me the song that soundtracked your year's clubbing.
Well, I think it's more like got me into the. I used to be really into drum and bass when I was about 18, 19. Um, and then Club Beaver Back was good for a drum and bass night on a
Yeah.
Friday. So yeah, I got Ronnie Size, Brown Paper Bag probably got me into drum and bass. I think
Yeah.
that's the first time I'd really heard it properly. Um, and yeah, and then I sort of heavily got into that. Was my going out clubbing
Yeah. If you're going to get in a drum
music.
and bass, that's a great gateway song to get you in, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But I love drum. I still love, when you hear that beat, it's like, yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I'd go to a drum and bass night now.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was wicked, man. I really enjoyed that time, and yeah, I kind of had to. I had decks and everything, but then I guess like, when I moved to London, it was like I had a lot of guitars and recording equipment, and I didn't have enough space for decks and the recording equipment, so I had to make a call. So I sold my decks. So who knows? Maybe the world's missed out
Yeah.
on the greatest ever drum and bass DJ. I'm sorry, I can only apologize.
Okay, mate. Okay. Well, look, from clubbing, I'm going to take you home now. And for track six, I'd like a favourite song from an artist from your home county, please.
I went for Waiting by Boyazuga.
Hmm.
They're a really great band. I don't know what they're doing now. Um, but Dave Newington, the singer, did the drums on my first album. And he did drums on my brother's album as well, I think. Or so he certainly did something, or he played with him live or something. He's an amazing drummer and he's the lead singer. But he doesn't play drums in Boyazuga. But yeah, I just loved that album. It's called One Two Kung Fu, I think it's called.
Kung Fu's a
Um,
single as well, isn't it?
yeah.
Yeah.
I think that was like the leading. Yeah,
Mm.
but it's a great record.
Yeah.
Saw them live a couple of times, but yeah, I just really loved that album. Just remember that I think I saw them on like first on like Jules Holland or something. It was like, whoa, go on, lads, what the heck? Yeah, yeah, but yeah, a really cool band, and a wicked record, man.
Yeah.
Really good from start to finish. Just every song's amazing.
So I've been sent over all your tracks, but I've not been sent the last track. And so I'm hoping you got the question for the next track.
Oh, was there another
And
question?
there was.
Oh.
And I put you on the spot here. And I want you to tell me a song that you think many people may not know that you would like them to go and listen to.
That they don't know. Um, I don't know. I feel like I would be offending any artist
I
by
don't,
saying
yeah,
them.
I'm not suggesting you pick
Like,
some obscure John Peel once played it B-side on like, it can be something that you love that you think some people would like
yeah.
to go and check.
I don't know if you haven't heard Aldous Harding. I think she's an amazing singer-songwriter. Definitely worth checking out. Anything by Adrian Lenker as well. I'm a big Thief. Got a new album coming out. I'm
Yeah,
excited about that. But yeah, I think yeah, Aldous Harding. Again, I remember seeing it. I've seen her a few times actually over the years. But yeah, I think she's a really special singer. Quite quirky and
yeah, absolutely.
strange. But yeah, there's a song. What's it called? I think it's called Treasure. Um, I love that song. It's awesome.
Okay,
Yeah,
good choice, mate. I'll put together a little Spotify playlist to accompany the
cool.
podcast, so we'll put that on there amongst all
Oh,
the
thank
other.
God I didn't say ABBA.
That would have been right at the top then. Um, and, uh, and so people can go and check out all the songs that we've spoken about, and obviously we put
Cool,
some of your music on there as well. And with that in mind,
cool.
obviously we've been speaking about everybody else's, but we haven't really spoken too much about yours. So for listeners to this show, do you want to sort of give people an insight? I mean, a single dropped a couple of weeks back, right?
Yeah.
And and so what else is happening?
Yeah, well, two singles have come out, and then the album comes out on, well, I don't know when this will be broadcast, but the 3rd of July, so in 2 days, tomorrow? No, the day after. And I don't know, maybe it's tomorrow. I don't know. It comes out at some point.
Yeah.
And yeah, we can edit that out. But the album comes out. Yeah, but yeah, I'm really pleased with it. You know, it's kind of I feel this one is the album I wanted to make. Which is quite a nice feeling. You know, again, I'm just really excited to share it. You know, I don't expect it to set the world alight and or any of that stuff. But it's just a collection of songs that yeah, some mostly newer stuff because it's been 10 years since I did the last album. So obviously I've written a lot of songs in that period. But I think the majority of the songs I've made on the album are the later on ones, the newer ones, because obviously they're more relevant to me or whatever. But yeah, it's kind of, I mean, I think I sort of set out thinking maybe it could be a folky-ish album, but then it just it just didn't. We just started putting bloody Juno synth on it and stuff, and then it just kind of it really expanded from there. And Chris Hyson, who produced it, he's a brilliant producer and musician, and yeah, we just kind of got on really well, and It was a really
How
enjoyable
how did that
process. It took.
how did that come about? Meeting him?
He's a friend of a friend, basically. I knew him from years back. But yeah, he's but then he'd done some stuff with a mate of mine's partner, and I listened to that. I was like, yeah, I love this. I'm gonna get in touch with him. Yeah, and we just sort of had the same references and stuff. He totally got what I wanted to do. Yeah, and he's just really good he's got really good taste. And I think when you work with someone at first, it's that you kind of sort of eyeing him and going, "Oh, is this the right choice?" And but very quickly, I realized, "Oh no, I can trust this guy. He knows what he's. I think we get the same. There's sometimes he'll come up with an idea that I don't really like, but then I'd let it sit, and then I'd realize, oh, actually, that's a fantastic idea. That's much better than anything I had. And I think it's really important to find that kind of relationship when you're working together because I have such a strong idea of how I want the songs to sound because I've lived with them. And in my head, I may only be sitting in a room playing on acoustic, but when I'm writing it, but I'm sort of hearing what I want it to sound like generally on the album, and I'm thinking about it when I'm lying in bed at night or whatever. But yeah, so it's quite hard sometimes to have to not. It's not compromising. It's just hearing a new idea that you're not quite sure about. But with him, I think very quickly we kind of got a good vibe going on, and yeah, and it was quite an elongated process of because I'd be off filming, and then I'd come back, do a couple of days, and then I'd have to go off again. And but that's the way it's always been. So it took about a year and a half all in all, but in like little bursts.
Okay.
I would go in, yeah,
And moving
cool.
forward, what about live? Is that going to be happening?
Yeah, I'd like to. Yeah, we're in discussions at the moment. I'm talking about it. It's a scheduling thing again. Yeah, it's quite awkward. Um, because yeah, I've got to earn money. You know what I mean? You've got to have a
Yeah.
real job, like every other musician. So yeah, so I've got to do. So yeah, we'll see. I think we're trying to get something in, but I'd love to play. But I really, to do it properly, it would need a band and all that stuff. I don't want to just do acoustic gigs
Yeah.
because the music it needs the full band to get the
Yeah.
experience. I think.
And that's a lot of
So
work to
yeah,
put that together, isn't it?
it is. Yeah, and it's expensive as hell, man.
Mm.
It's crazy how expensive when you're putting all the costs. Obviously, you've got to pay the musicians and hiring equipment and all everything else that goes along
Yeah.
with putting. Yeah, it's just mad like
Yeah.
costs. So it's just, I don't know. We'll see.
Well, look, in the meantime, people can get stuck into the album, which drops on the third,
Yeah,
and we'll put the links in the show notes to this show to where people can
cool.
go and listen to it. Um, thanks so much, mate, for coming on today and
Cheers, man.
talking
No, it's
music.
been really
It's
enjoyed it. Yeah, it's been
Oh,
great.
thank you, mate. It's been an absolute pleasure. I'm going to press stop, but don't go anywhere.